Every real estate journey is unique. That's why we created the AOF Real Estate team, a full-service solution built to support you at every stage. Whether you're building wealth through strategic investments, need hassle-free property management, or want to maximize your sale price as a Scott McGilvery trusted team, we've assembled all key services under one roof. First-time buyer or seasoned investor, our dedicated client success team ensures your experience is seamless from start to finish. At AOF, we make real estate simple, profitable, and stress-free. The AOF Real Estate team, your journey, our expertise.
All right, everybody, welcome to the AOF Real Estate Monthly Update. My name is Kellen, and holy, we are at standing room only today. Around the table here, I got Min, Aaron, Spencer, Kevin, Alona, and Drew. Thank you, everybody, for joining. What's going on out there in the real estate world in Edmonton?
So for sellers, just know that demand is rising quickly. The spring market has started. We have seen sales increased from January 2026 to February 2026 by almost 40%, so months over months. So this means that buyer activity is, more buyers are entering the market. There is stronger buyer activity. Homes need to be priced well to attract strong attention from buyers and potentially multiple offers. So when you look at the spring cycle, listing early in the spring cycle can be advantageous. And inventory remains relatively tight, which is really good news for sellers. The market currently has about 3.4 months of inventory. This means that it's generally considered a seller-leaning market, and there are fewer homes available relative to demand. Sellers still have leverage in negotiations, but always, no matter what cycle we are in, what sellers or buyers market we are in, pricing strategically is really, really critical for maximum buyer competition. So for buyers, if you're buying in this spring market, you need to know a couple of things. So one is prices have been relatively stable overall. There has been modest growth. So the average residential price in Edmonton and surrounding areas is $455,000. And it increased from January 2026 by 1.4%. And from February 2025 by 1.5%. So there has been growth months over months and year over year. But not a really high growth where you're completely outpriced out of the market. So if you're a buyer, you still have window before that stronger spring competition pushes prices even higher. And the second point for the buyers that I wanted to emphasize is that condo prices remain kind of soft, and that creates opportunities. So from January 2025, apartment condominium prices have declined about 6% and 1% year over year, so from February 2025. So this means that condos may offer better value compared to other property types, and investors and first-time buyers could find really good entry points. So in summary, there are a couple of points. So for sellers, if you're selling, buyer activity is increasing and inventory remains tight. If you're a buyer and you're buying, prices are stable overall, but condos offer potential deals. So that's it for stats, guys. What do you see on the ground?
This is my favorite time of the year to listen. I know you'll hear realtors say, what's their favorite time, spring and whatnot, but this early spring market is awesome. You will crush it as a seller with the motivated buyers that you see. You get a lot less wasted showings. You don't have to leave your house as frequently, but the buyers that come in are super serious. They're diligent. They know what they want. So there's just not a lot of time wasting. So any listings that I've had historically go live at this time of year have done tremendously well. Now, spring market, you can see a little bit more uptick in price and whatnot, but you also have a lot more competition. So for me, any listing that has had a harder time selling in previous times we try to go live around now. I know, Drew, you talked to another team, and they literally, if they get a listing in the fall or whatnot, early winter, they go right into, we're not listing till, was it February 1st or February 14th or something?
February 15th.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's done really well. I'm actually showing some buyers around right now, and the amount of homes that are pending that we go to look at is specifically on the new construction side. The builders had a little bit of excess inventory there for a bit. We've been trying to capture a deal before things get hot there in the spring, and we're kind of a little slow already because a lot of the inventory that we've been looking at, I would say, has been picked up or gone pending just in the last week. So things are definitely changing right now. But for sellers, my message to you is I would if you have a home that's ready to go right now, I wouldn't wait until the spring. When all the snow's gone, you can really do well right now. And for buyers, if you're trying to get a really good deal, that last good deal from some of these builders and whatnot, probably, you got another week or two before the builders, they're just like people. As soon as things get hot and stuff, they don't feel like they have to move the needle as much. So if you want to take advantage of that, the time is now.
Yeah, with the builders, I also think like it's a great time to be in the market. You're just, and you've got your agent looking for product to show up on the market, and you can kind of be the first one to take a look at all these things and kind of have your pick of your pick of what's coming onto the market. Whereas if you do wait, there's going to be thousands of other people, waiting in line to buy property as well, right? So, I think you're more likely to find, a better, maybe a better deal or maybe a better opportunity at a deal or something at this point, rather than waiting till the market is hot.
Guys, I just had an insight as like Kevin and Spencer were talking. In the rental market, most landlords in Edmonton and in Alberta in general try to renew their leases like between May and like October at the latest. So imagine those people who are first-time home buyers, their leases end and they're thinking about taking that step into home ownership. So they're looking now because by the time they close, it's going to be April, May, and they're able to get out of their lease agreement when it ends.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think, and just to go back to the sales side, I think that's where, all of the stats you talked about, Alona, translate exactly to what Kevin and Spence were talking about as well. Well, when you see that there's 40% more sales month over month, there's a lot more activity, a lot more people out there looking, and they're understanding that they have to make decisions potentially a little bit quicker. The deals might be needing to move a little bit faster, and that's what happens when you have a statistic like that. And if we're just kind of on that precipice of getting into spring, I think Drew made a comment last month that the market wasn't as hot as it was outside, and got a little bit of a refresher of winter in February, and now here we're back getting into the spring. The melt is on, and so again, if that's where the market heats up with the temperature, it's pretty standard to the year, to the season. So no, it's good. I think, and it's great to get more of that insight information on the, the buyer and seller side of the resale, and, a big contribution to our business on the new construction side, and looking at larger projects or even just the construction of different projects that we have access to helping investors acquire right now. Is a lot of those projects are in the ground. They're forecast to be complete by the end of the year. So there's a lot of, I'd say, drive and really good, like you're able to kind of set the parameters for financing expectations, for timelines. Speaking to what you did as well, Alona, with lease ups, if we're able to target those lease ups outside of when the snow's flying, that's typically a really popular and ideal time for a lot of tenant access. So I do agree. Just even looking at kind of the inquiries coming through, revisiting some conversations with investors from the past year or even couple of years, that what's going on in Edmonton is you hear some news about all the market drop-offs, the rental slowdowns. It's stable. We're still just working in that stable market here in Alberta, and specifically in Edmonton with the affordability side. It's definitely an attractor for for a lot of investors, a lot of home buyers and sellers as well.
And I think too, even on the affordability side, like when we're talking multifamily and you look at what the threshold is for affordability across Alberta, we've got clients that are looking in all markets in Alberta. They're looking in Red Deer, they're looking in Calgary, they're looking in Edmonton. But CMHC threshold for affordability in those three cities are very different. Like the affordability threshold in Calgary is $1,738 a month. Edmonton is $1,665, and Red Deer is $898 a month. So when we talk about affordability, when we talk about the advantage specifically to buying multifamily in Edmonton, we've got the perfect mix of affordability on the buying side, as well as affordability, a high threshold of affordability on the renter side. So you can go through and get the maximum amount of points for your MLI Select mortgage and not have to sacrifice on the income of the property. Such a good point about affordability in
I love
Alberta.
getting those numbers too, Drew, because that's something when oftentimes in conversations with investors from other parts of the country, it's, why Edmonton? And that's you just kind of hit the nail ahead when investors are looking at numbers. Well, the math checks pretty nicely there on the MLI Select program when you're thinking about affordability, not only on the rental threshold, but then also the cost to enter and how those numbers come together, how they're underwritten, and then also how it performs. So I know those are numbers
like
that people need to be
our new
cognizant of.
construction. Well, our new construction deals, like they're guaranteed 100 points the way we set them up. They're tailor made for that type of financing, so it's a no-brainer. If you compare it to other markets, it's significantly more difficult to hit 100 points just on affordability alone. So that's one of the benefits of investing in our market. Like we can guarantee the 100 points when we go through one of our purpose-built MLI Select multifamily deals. We just make it easy. You don't have to worry about how am I going to scramble to get to the 100 points. You just got it with the affordability that our market provides, plus the pricing and all that. It just lines up really nice.
Great. Anything else, boots on the ground, that anybody wanted to jump in? I know we've got a special guest today, Min, on the Min's Mortgage Minute. Okay. We won't put you down for just 60 seconds only, but no, appreciate you jumping on and thought we'd just kind of open up on the financing kind of portion of what we're seeing in the market. Obviously, there's a lot of indicators out there that influence the financial markets these days. Any insight that you're seeing right now, kind of, that you'd be able to chat a little bit about? I think Spence, you had a pretty good article or something you had seen pop up that Min was going to touch on.
Yeah, so I just saw an article, and they were talking about between 2025 and 2026, somewhere around 40-50% of the mortgages in Canada are going to need to be renewed. And obviously, with that, there's strategies in how to accomplish that, the best for yourself, right? So I thought it'd be a really good question to ask Min this week and help people out with, because I'm sure we've got lots of clients that are in the same situation right now.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, it's very true that there would be a lot of mortgages that are going to be coming up for renewal in the next, they have been coming up for renewal in the past year, and there'll be more coming up in 2026, even going to 2027. And for anybody who may have purchased during the COVID years, they would have had like exceptional rates, maybe 1.59, 1.79. Today's rate are more than double of what they had. So a lot of them will go through, will be in a bit of a shock when they realize how much more they have to pay for the mortgage. So I mean, there's a few things that they can do. So if your renewal is coming up in the next 3 to 4 months, I would find out from my lender what the renewal rate is, and once I have that information, I would highly suggest that these people reach out to a mortgage broker who would have access to multiple different lenders, and they can try to find them maybe a better rate or maybe a better product that's more suitable to what their needs are. Okay. Um, if the mortgage is coming up for renewal by the end of the year, for example, I would still get on that on top of that. So what I would do is I would reach out to my broker, find out what today's rate is, right? And then find out how much more I would have to pay for the same mortgage. And then what I would do is I would start putting more money aside every month in order to try to achieve that payment by the time I renew my rate. So for example, if I'm paying $2,000 a month today, when I had a rate of 1.79, by when I renew, it could be $2,400. So rather than having to come up with that extra $400, I would start putting aside, maybe $100 a month for the next couple of months, and then another $200 a couple of months, so that I don't miss that money. It's there. So when the time it comes for me to renew my mortgage and I have to pay a few $100s more, I would not be in as much as a financial shock otherwise. So I think that's a great strategy. It was something that came up to me with one of my clients. Actually, they started paying the mortgage higher in order to try to match today's rate, and it worked perfectly for them.
Awesome. No,
Yeah.
That's a
Sure.
good piece of
What do you
advice.
think about re-amortizing your mortgage as well, Min, if you needed to?
You could, yeah. So that's one, but that's another strategy that, let's say you had a 25-year amortization and there's 20 years remaining, you could reduce your monthly payment by re-amortizing it. Now there are different products out there for you to re-amortize in up to 25 years. However, it may not be an insurable mortgage anymore. And when a mortgage is uninsurable, they will pay a bit of a higher rate compared to an insured mortgage. So if they started with an insured mortgage, it's great to continue. If they had an uninsured mortgage, let's say 20% down, then it works to re-amortize and just reduce the payment.
What is the rate
I mean,
difference, Min, usually between insured and uninsured mortgage?
probably it would range probably a quarter of a percentage point typically between an uninsured and insured mortgage. It depends on the lender. But usually that's kind of around, from what we see with the majority of the A lenders out there, it's about a quarter of a percentage point.
I have a question for Min.
that's what we're here for.
So before we go to the question, Ilona, going back to what Spencer said, this is the reason why I would highly recommend anyone who has renewal coming up to go see their mortgage broker, because they can provide that type of solutions where maybe it makes more sense to pay a slightly higher interest rate and re-amortize it, so that you can keep your monthly mortgage payments low to the level that you're looking to achieve.
Yeah, because lenders are typically going to make it easy for you to sign on the dotted line. They're going to send you a letter of renewal. They're not going to look at different options. They're just going to say, hey, here you can continue paying your mortgage down the way you always have. Your rate's going to go up a little bit more. Here's your new payment. Sign on the dotted line so we don't have any interruptions, and you're good to go. Right? That's the messaging from the lender. But I like this approach that you're suggesting, man. Let's ask some questions. What are my options? Right? Let's see, talk to a professional and find out what those options are.
I would suggest when they send you that renewal letter, you're not getting the best rates that they can offer, right? They are just trying to make it as easy as possible. So you sign it, and and the banks can make a little bit more money rather than, you keep a little bit more money in your pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100%. So they make it easy, but an easy solution, not necessarily the best solution right?
Yes. So for people who are buying their primary residence and they have an option to put 5% down and get an insured mortgage, or to put 20% down and get rid of that CMHC fee. What do you think makes more sense? Because I've heard it before, the strategy where even if you have 20% down, to put 19.5% down, so you get the benefit of an insured mortgage. And I didn't quite understand, maybe that's the reason that person said that is because you're saying the overall interest rate is better. So do you see that benefit of doing that strategy?
Absolutely. So the mortgage insurance that people pay varies depending on how much they put down payment. Like they put 5%, it's like 4%, and they put 10% is 3.2, etc. And if they put 50% to 19.9%, it goes down to like 2.8%. So it plateaus at 5, 10, and 15. So here's the thing: the moment you put 20% down, the rate will go up probably by a quarter of a point. Like I said, a lot of people will put 19.5, 19.7, 19.8% down. And what it does, they still pay the CMHC or the mortgage insurance fee at a lower rate. They have the better interest rate. But here's the thing that most people don't understand is when they renew their rate after 5 years, that mortgage is still insured. So they still qualify for an insured rate. However, if they start with an uninsured mortgage, when they go to renew it, it's not insured or it's insurable, and the chances are they're going to be paying a higher rate at the time of renewal, not just at the time of purchase. Right? So 19.5 will give you probably the lowest rate for insurance, and you still qualify for the best rate available out there.
Okay.
Now, there's
Awesome.
some great insight.
Some good nuggets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to a pro, which
Talk to a
again,
pro.
I think this is something that we've probably talked about before in the monthly update, is getting in touch with a trusted advisor. Min, this is awesome. I appreciate you sharing some insight on some of those strategies, because we talk about strategy all the time. And I was going to say, Aaron, I know you had a similar story, just experience wise too, just, mapping these things out with a mortgage broker specifically, not just, like you said, getting that renewal sent in the mail. It might seem clean, it might seem easy, as Min alluded to, but that doesn't always mean it's the best solution. So, when we kind of circle back in the discussions about strategy, this actually is a perfect kind of segue into one of the latest, or question we get often, but one that came in, I think it was through the socials, but just like, what property types or strategies are working best in 2026? And so, what a perfect time talking about strategizing on the financing side for a buyer, or even in the renewal stage here for a property owner on the financing. But ultimately, for the AOF burning question,
It's AOF burning questions.
burning question of March 2026 here: what property types and strategies are working best in 2026?
I got a couple ideas here. I looked at it from like a long-term perspective, mid-term perspective, and short-term. Now, what I'm seeing right now is on the multifamily side, we've got a ton of people who are looking specifically for value add opportunities. So what we're finding is there's a lot of opportunities that aren't being realized in the turnkey style of investing. Like, people are all looking for value add. They're not looking for turnkey. So there's a lot of opportunities that are being overlooked in that kind of long-term opportunity space. Midterm, I'd say that, again, with people moving into more of the multifamily space with the MLI Select financing, we are seeing a lot less investors competing in that single family and smaller kind of investment type of properties, like the fourplexes and unders. We're not seeing a ton of people competing in the single family suited houses like we had, pre-2022. So I think that there's some shorter term opportunities there, kind of midterm, because I would say the multifamily properties are kind of a 10 to 20 year play. The single family suited is kind of a 5 to 10 year play. And then on the shorter term side, you're still seeing a lot of sales in more of that, like, not luxury real estate, but more of the higher end real estate. Think properties that were built in the 80s and 90s, closer to the river valley, closer to the university type of area. I think that there's opportunities for flips there if you can get a good buy and then fix it up for a nominal amount and then sell it back to people. There's a lot of families, a lot of young families and people that are looking in those areas to try to find their forever homes. So those are kind of my long-term, medium-term, and short-term plays. I don't know if anybody else has any
I was going
ideas.
to kind of even zoom out a little bit more on the macro and just aligning with what Min said is that it's very specific to each individual, especially when, that we're taking from what Min's talking about on the financing side, but looking at the project is, having a strategy, working with trusted advisors, somebody that has opportunities. When I think about how the AOF real estate team can support buyers, sellers, investors, it's having access and understanding of what the needs are for each individual and how we can best support them in that acquisition or disposition side. Um, we've kind of started to revisit the creative real estate side opportunities, helping investors that may be in a position right now where over the past few years, their properties have performed well, and they may be looking at growing their portfolio in a different way, which would require them to sell off different properties. We're still kind of working through the process on creative MLI Select and assumptions and such. That's still pretty new, so I think that'll be something that comes together moving forward as we get some experience on it. But even for, like you alluded to, Drew, sometimes it's the single family detached home where somebody just has the opportunity to have a fully stabilized asset that's cash flow positive that they want to get working for them. What a great value add to the portfolio that would look like. So, more of that macro, I guess, answer to the question is that for an investor, for a buyer, for a seller, there's always a strategy that will align with what your needs and wants are. It's just a matter of having the right advisor in place to guide you through that process.
Yeah, I'd say for me, I echo Drew's sentiments about the multifamily. There's definitely, people are looking for value add right now, and it's opened up the door on the turnkey side with some really incredible opportunities that could even help with stabilizing the asset. So, people that have closed on properties before, there's a process of filling the property and stuff. Now we even have options to help you and hold your hand and assist and make it super easy for you to fill your property and make it a stress-free experience. So that's all obviously my option one. I think that's one of the best things that an investor can do if they can qualify for the MLI Select. It's not going to be here forever, so take advantage when you can. But the thing he said that is really sort of cool is the single family homes with a income property in the basement. They are at a steal right now for prices. Like if you are looking for something that's just super easy to manage, you don't have to worry about any commercial financing, you just want to do a little residential mortgage on it, it's super easy to acquire. They're in all over the city and surrounding areas, so you can find them in the location that fits for you, whether that's student rental areas or in the suburbs where you get a young family or young professional family in there. So I feel like, given over the last few years, I think they're just at a steal price wise right now. You have some very good options. You're not limited. You can take your time kind of going through the option that fits best for you. So I do think that is an avenue that hasn't been looked at a lot over the last few years, but I think investors should start to take advantage of those good deals.
And I wanted to add to that too. So even if you are, a young person starting out or jumping into the home ownership, I just want to build on what has been said. I love the strategy of house hacking, where, you're buying single family home. You can't yet afford a multifamily. That probably holy grail of investing is multifamily, right? Whether on the new side or value add. But what you can afford is a primary residence. So why don't you buy something where you can either live in that property and rent rooms as well, have roommates, or you can have a legal basement unit and either you live in a legal basement unit and rent upstairs, or vice versa. But I think house hacking is a really good strategy for the short term, especially for people starting out.
That's a good point.
If I
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons.
I was gonna
Go
add
ahead, man.
to
Go ahead.
what Kevin said. So if you're going to be getting a single family home with a legal or a secondary suite or a legal basement suite, you should definitely shop around with a mortgage broker, because different lenders and the big six banks will have different policies when it comes to how they calculate the rental income on a legal suite. Some would be much more flexible. Some will have policy that are more advantageous for you. So if you do that, you definitely need to shop around. Don't just go to your bank and assume that once they say no, that you can't do it, right? Shop around, because like I'll tell you, different lenders have different policies out there, and some are much, much better when it comes to having a secondary rental suite.
Oh, that's awesome. I was actually wanted to swing that back to you, Min, there. But Drew, you had something else to kind of chime in on as well?
No, and I was just going to, further to that, even as, we've seen interest rates come down over the last few years. That's what really pushed investors out of this single family space with the advent of MLI Select financing and kind of all the appeal that has. It created a big gap in the amount of people that were buying single family homes. And now that the interest rates have kind of come back down to normal rates, where you're not paying, huge interest rates that aren't going to allow your property to cash flow, it's another opportunity. So I feel like there's going to be a lot more people moving into that space.
All right. So yeah, those are like all really, really awesome points. It's great to, I think about the conversations that I may have one-on-one with investors, and just as a team when we have these conversations, to look at where we have our fingers and where we have our footprints, I guess, in the real estate market here in Edmonton, from the financing side, single family, the resale, house hacking. Like, we're really boots on the ground here in Edmonton, all facets of real estate. That's what our team does. And so it's great to have that conversation with you guys today. For the listener side, if any of these strategies are something you've been thinking about, you want to learn a little bit more about, we do the calls every single month, but getting in touch with one of the team members is probably the best way to learn more. It's just, at the end of the day, our goal here is to help you build that wealth in a real estate investment portfolio. And I can't say there's two portfolios that look the exact same. Everybody's got different strategies. So talking through that with a trusted advisor is definitely going to provide you with a little bit more insight and hopefully comfort and confidence to move forward with that as well. So if that's it, that's all. Thank you, everybody, joining. We always appreciate being able to have the opportunity to speak to the folks that listen. If you've made it this far, again, thank you very much. We look forward to reconnecting with everyone next month.
Okay.
All right, bye, guys.
Thank you.
Catch you later.
Hey, what's got the recipe? Simple as can be. Trust in us and you will see. We make real estate easy. So easy, believe me. We're here to serve, give you what you deserve. All under one roof, that's our proof. It's still the last one to me.